Welcome to the History AI podcast, where the past comes alive with facts, anecdotes, and a dash of humor. Here are your hosts, Chuck and Marco.
Welcome back, history buffs. This is the History AI podcast, and I'm Chuck.
And I'm Marco. Today, we're diving into one of the most grueling and significant battles of World War I, the Battle of Verdun. But first, let's all wish Chuck a happy 40th birthday.
Thanks, Marco. I appreciate it.
40 years old, brother. You're officially over the hill.
Well, I might be over the hill, but at least I'm still young enough to climb it again.
Fair enough. Anyway, we've got a fascinating episode lined up for you all today.
This battle not only defined the French resolve, but also changed the course of the war. It's a story of immense bravery, strategy, and heartbreak.
Buckle up, folks. We're going back to 1916. But before we jump in, a quick reminder to rate, subscribe, and share our podcast. Your 5-star reviews help us reach more people and keep this podcast growing.
And don't forget, you can now get your hands on some cool History AI podcast merchandise. The link is in the show notes. Every episode, including this one, is evergreen, so you can revisit or share them anytime.
All right, let's set the scene. What was happening in the world at that time?
It's 1916, and the world is in the throes of the Great War, or World War I as we know it today. This war, unlike any before it, involves countries from all over the globe. At its heart, it's a conflict between two major alliances, the Central Powers and the Allied Powers.
The Central Powers, consisting of Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Bulgaria, are facing off against the Allied Powers, which include France, Britain, Russia, Italy, and eventually the United States, among others.
The war began in 1914 after the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary, which set off a chain reaction of alliances and treaties being activated. The result was a conflict that quickly spread across Europe and beyond.
By 1916, the Western Front, stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, is a static line of trenches. Both sides are dug in, and trench warfare has led to a brutal stalemate. The conditions in these trenches are horrific. Soldiers face constant artillery bombardment, machine gun fire, and the ever-present threat of gas attacks.
The land between the opposing trenches is known as no man's land, a desolate and deadly zone filled with barbed wire, craters from shelling, and the remnants of previous battles. Any attempt to cross it is met with fierce resistance and often results in heavy casualties.
In this context, the German High Command, led by Chief of General Staff Erich von Falkenhayn, devises a plan to break the deadlock. Falkenhayn believes that by targeting a location of immense strategic and symbolic value to the French, he can draw the French army into a battle of attrition.
Falkenhayn's target is Verdun, a fortress town in northeastern France. Verdun is not only a key defensive position but also a symbol of French national pride. It has been fortified for centuries and stands as a testament to French resilience.
Falkenhayn's strategy is to bleed France white by forcing them to defend Verdun at all costs. He expects that the French will commit their best troops to defend the town, allowing the Germans to inflict maximum casualties and wear down French resources.
On the other side, the French, led by General Joseph Joffre, initially, and later by General Philippe Pétain, understand the importance of Verdun. They know that losing Verdun would be a significant blow to French morale and could potentially lead to a broader collapse on the Western Front.
The French prepare to defend Verdun with everything they have. They fortify their positions and bring in reinforcements. General Pétain, who will become a central figure in the battle, is determined to hold Verdun at all costs. His approach is methodical and focuses on maintaining high morale among his troops.
As 1916 begins, Europe is a continent at war, and the stage is set for the Battle of Verdun. It will be a test of endurance, strategy, and sheer willpower, lasting much longer than anyone could have anticipated.
With the scene set and the stakes clear, let's move into the opening salvo of this epic battle. The Battle of Verdun begins on February 21, 1916, with one of the most intense artillery bombardments in history.
The Battle of Verdun officially begins on February 21, 1916. At 7:15 a.m., the German artillery opens up with a massive bombardment. This is no ordinary shelling. Over 1,200 artillery pieces unleash a storm of fire on the French lines, covering a 24-kilometer front.
For 9 hours, the bombardment is relentless. The Germans use a mix of high explosive and shrapnel shells, designed to destroy trenches, fortifications, and anything else in their path. It's estimated that during this opening barrage, over 1 million shells are fired.
The French positions, though heavily fortified, are devastated. Forts and trenches that have stood for years are reduced to rubble. The initial bombardment is so intense that it is heard as far away as Paris.
Once the artillery stops, the German infantry begins their advance. Led by Crown Prince Wilhelm, the German plan is to swiftly capture key positions before the French can regroup. The first objective is to take the villages and forts that protect the approaches to Verdun.
One of the early targets is Fort Douaumont, the largest and most powerful fort in the Verdun sector. On February 25, just 4 days into the battle, a small German raiding party manages to infiltrate the fort, which is surprisingly lightly defended. The fall of Fort Douaumont is a severe blow to French morale and gives the Germans a significant strategic advantage.
But the French are not about to give up. General Philippe Pétain, who has been appointed to command the French Second Army at Verdun, implements a strategy of rotating troops in and out of the front lines to keep them fresh and maintain morale. This system becomes known as the Noria.
The Noria system is critical in sustaining the French defense. Pétain ensures that supplies, ammunition, and reinforcements are constantly flowing to the front via the Voie Sacrée, or Sacred Way, a vital supply road leading into Verdun.
As the battle grinds on, the fighting intensifies. The Germans push forward, capturing several key positions, including the village of Vaux and the Carriet Wood. Each advance is met with fierce French resistance, turning every inch of ground into a bitterly contested struggle.
One of the most brutal episodes occurs at Fort Vaux. From May 29 to June 7, the fort is besieged by German forces. The French garrison, led by Major Sylvain Eugene Raynal, holds out under harrowing conditions. Running out of food, water, and medical supplies, the defenders continue to fight, even resorting to drinking from puddles and using pigeons to send messages.
Eventually, Fort Vaux falls to the Germans, but the defenders' courage becomes legendary. Major Raynal and his men are taken prisoner, but their tenacity inspires French troops throughout the region.
Meanwhile, General Pétain continues to organize the French defense. He employs artillery in innovative ways, including the use of counter-battery fire to target German artillery positions. This helps to reduce the effectiveness of the German bombardments and protect French troops.
As summer turns to autumn, the battle shows no signs of abating. The French launch a series of counteroffensives in August and September, aimed at retaking lost ground. These attacks are met with mixed success, but they demonstrate the resilience and determination of the French army.
One significant counterattack occurs in October when French forces, under the command of General Robert Nivelle, launch a major assault on Fort Douaumont. After fierce fighting, the French manage to recapture the fort on October 24, a symbolic victory that boosts French morale.
The battle continues into November and December, with both sides exhausted and casualties mounting. By December 18, 1916, the French have regained much of the ground lost earlier in the year, and the battle effectively comes to an end.
In the end, the Battle of Verdun lasts for 302 days, making it one of the longest battles in history. It becomes a symbol of French determination and resilience, a testament to the soldiers who fought and died in its trenches and fortifications.
The immense toll of the battle, with hundreds of thousands of casualties on both sides, leaves an indelible mark on the course of the war and the nations involved. It's a story of strategy, sacrifice, and the unbreakable human spirit.
The Battle of Verdun is not just a story of strategic maneuvers and attrition, it's also a story of individual heroism and extraordinary acts of courage. The soldiers who fought at Verdun became legends, and their stories are etched into the annals of history.
One of the most celebrated heroes is Lieutenant Colonel Emile Driant. A former politician and writer-turned-soldier, Driant commanded 2 battalions of Chasseurs Arpides, elite light infantry troops. On February 21, 1916, as the German bombardment began, Driant and his men were stationed in the Bois d'Escaures, a critical position on the front line.
Driant had anticipated the German attack and had fortified his positions as best as he could. When the German infantry began their assault after the bombardment, Driant's men were ready. Despite being heavily outnumbered and outgunned, they managed to hold their ground for 2 days, inflicting significant casualties on the advancing Germans.
On February 23, Driant was killed in action while organizing a defense. His sacrifice bought crucial time for the French to reinforce their positions and prepare for the German onslaught. Driant's bravery and leadership became a symbol of French resistance and tenacity.
Another towering figure is General Philippe Pétain, who took command of the French forces at Verdun early in the battle. Pétain's leadership was marked by his deep concern for his soldiers' welfare, which earned him the nickname Papa Pétain. He implemented the Noria system, rotating troops to keep them fresh, and ensured that the supply lines via the Voie sacrée remained open and operational.
Pétain's motto, "They shall not pass," or "Ils ne passeront pas," became a rallying cry for the French forces. His determination to hold Verdun at all costs galvanized the French troops and maintained their morale during the darkest days of the battle.
Major Sylvain Eugene Raynal's defense of Fort Vaux is another story of exceptional heroism. When German forces surrounded the fort in early June 1916, Raynal and his garrison of around 600 men found themselves in a desperate situation. Cut off from supplies and reinforcements, they faced relentless attacks and severe shortages of food and water.
Despite these dire conditions, Raynal and his men held out for several days. They used every means at their disposal to fend off the attackers, including hand-to-hand combat in the narrow corridors of the fort. Raynal's use of carrier pigeons to communicate with French headquarters became a poignant symbol of the fort's isolation and the garrison's determination.
On June 7, after exhausting all their resources, Raynal was forced to surrender. The defenders were taken as prisoners of war, but their valiant stand became a source of inspiration for the French army and a testament to their bravery under impossible conditions.
General Robert Nivelle also played a crucial role during the later stages of the battle. His aggressive counter-offensives in the autumn of 1916, particularly the recapture of Fort Douaumont in October, demonstrated his tactical acumen and boosted French morale. Nivelle's ability to inspire his troops and lead successful operations helped to turn the tide in favor of the French.
And let's not forget the ordinary soldiers, the poilus, who endured unimaginable hardships. These men faced continuous artillery bombardment, brutal trench conditions, and the constant threat of death. Despite this, they fought with unparalleled bravery and resilience.
Stories like that of Paul Cazin, a stretcher-bearer who risked his life countless times to bring wounded soldiers back from no man's land, highlight the everyday heroism displayed by those at Verdun. Cazin's dedication to saving lives amidst the carnage earned him the respect and admiration of his comrades.
The heroes of Verdun, from high-ranking officers to ordinary soldiers, exemplify the spirit of endurance and sacrifice that defined the battle. Their legacy is a powerful reminder of the human cost of war and the extraordinary courage that can emerge in the face of overwhelming adversity. The Battle of Verdun saw the implementation of various tactics and the use of new technologies that would shape the nature of modern warfare. Both the French and Germans employed innovative strategies in an attempt to gain the upper hand in this grueling conflict.
One of the most significant aspects of the battle was the extensive use of artillery. The Germans initiated the battle with a massive artillery barrage, and throughout the 302 days of fighting, artillery played a central role. The Germans aimed to use their superior artillery firepower to destroy French fortifications and trench systems before launching infantry assaults.
The French, on the other hand, developed counter-battery fire techniques to target German artillery positions. This involved using observation balloons and early forms of sound ranging to locate enemy guns. By neutralizing German artillery, the French sought to reduce the effectiveness of the bombardments and protect their own troops.
Another key tactic employed by the French was the Noria system, introduced by General Philippe Pétain. The constant rotation of troops ensured that fresh soldiers were always available to man the front lines, maintaining morale and fighting capability. This system was crucial in sustaining the French defense over the long duration of the battle.
The terrain around Verdun also played a significant role in the tactics used by both sides. The region is characterized by dense forests, rolling hills, and the Meuse River, creating a challenging battlefield. The French used the terrain to their advantage by establishing strong defensive positions in the wooded areas and along the ridges.
Fortifications such as Fort Douaumont and Fort Vaux became focal points of the battle. These forts were heavily defended and symbolized the French resolve to hold Verdun. The capture and subsequent recapture of these forts were significant turning points in the battle.
The use of new technology was also prominent at Verdun. Both sides employed flamethrowers for the first time in significant numbers. These terrifying weapons were used to clear enemy trenches and fortifications, adding to the horrors of trench warfare.
Poison gas, first used on a large scale during World War I, was also deployed at Verdun. Chlorine and phosgene gases caused horrific injuries and deaths, contributing to the already brutal conditions on the battlefield. Gas masks became essential equipment for soldiers on both sides.
Aviation played an increasingly important role as well. Airplanes were used for reconnaissance, artillery spotting, and even direct attacks on enemy positions. The skies above Verdun saw numerous dogfights between French and German aircraft, adding a new dimension to the battle.
One of the most critical turning points in the battle came in the summer of 1916. While the Battle of Verdun raged on, the Allies launched the Battle of the Somme on July 1st. This massive offensive on the Western Front forced the Germans to divert resources and troops away from Verdun, relieving some of the pressure on the French defenders.
The French used this opportunity to launch their own counteroffensives. In August, they began a series of coordinated attacks to recapture lost ground. These efforts culminated in the recapture of Fort Douaumont on October 24 and Fort Vaux on November 2. These victories were significant boosts to French morale and marked a turning point in the battle.
Another important factor was the leadership of General Robert Nivelle, who took command of the French Second Army during the later stages of the battle. Nivelle's aggressive tactics and inspirational leadership helped to maintain the momentum of the French counteroffensives.
Nivelle's famous order, "You will fight to the end. Your duty is to die," encapsulated the desperate determination of the French forces. His ability to inspire his troops and lead successful operations was instrumental in turning the tide of the battle.
By December 1916, the French had regained much of the ground lost earlier in the year. The German offensive had failed to achieve its objective of bleeding France white. Instead, the Battle of Verdun had exhausted both sides, with enormous casualties and little change in the overall strategic situation.
The tactics and turning points of the Battle of Verdun demonstrate the evolution of modern warfare and the immense human cost of such a prolonged conflict. It was a battle that tested the limits of endurance and strategy, leaving a lasting impact on the course of World War I. The Battle of Verdun, which lasted from February 21 to December 18, 1916, resulted in one of the highest casualty rates of any battle in history. It left an indelible mark on both the French and German armies, as well as the civilian populations of the nations involved.
The numbers are staggering. By the end of the battle, the French had suffered approximately 377,000 casualties, including around 162,000 killed or missing. The Germans incurred about 337,000 casualties, with roughly 143,000 killed or missing. These figures underscore the sheer scale and brutality of the fighting.
The impact of these casualties went beyond just the numbers. Verdun became a symbol of French national determination and sacrifice. The loss of so many men in defense of the town cemented its place in French national memory and contributed to a sense of shared suffering and resolve.
The battlefield itself was left devastated. The landscape around Verdun, once covered in forests and fields, was transformed into a wasteland of craters, barbed wire, and shattered trees. Villages were obliterated, and the environment was scarred by millions of artillery shells and other remnants of war.
The psychological impact on the soldiers who fought at Verdun was profound. Many of those who survived suffered from what was then known as shell shock, now recognized as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The horrors of the battle left deep mental scars on the men who endured the relentless artillery bombardments, close-quarters combat, and the constant threat of death.
On the strategic level, the Battle of Verdun had significant implications for the wider war. The German plan to bleed France white ultimately failed. Instead of weakening the French to the point of collapse, the battle drained German resources and manpower, contributing to the overall weariness of the Central Powers.
The French, despite their enormous losses, emerged from Verdun with a strength and resolve. The battle demonstrated their ability to withstand intense pressure and hold their ground against a formidable enemy. This resilience played a crucial role in the continued Allied resistance and eventual victory.
The lessons learned at Verdun influenced military tactics and strategies for the remainder of World War I and beyond. The importance of artillery, the use of rotating troops to maintain morale, and the necessity of strong supply lines were all reinforced by the experiences of the battle.
In the immediate aftermath of the battle, efforts were made to commemorate the sacrifice of those who fought and died at Verdun. Memorials and cemeteries were established to honor the fallen. The ossuary at Douaumont, for instance, contains the remains of 130,000 unidentified French and German soldiers, serving as a somber reminder of the battle's human cost.
Verdun also became a symbol of Franco-German reconciliation in the post-war years. In 1984, French President François Mitterrand and German Chancellor Helmut Kohl stood hand in hand at Douaumont, signifying a commitment to peace and the end of centuries of conflict between their nations.
The battle's legacy is still felt today. Verdun remains a site of pilgrimage for those wishing to honor the memory of the soldiers who fought there. The scars on the landscape serve as a reminder of the devastation of war and the importance of striving for peace.
The Battle of Verdun was a defining moment in World War I, showcasing both the horrors of modern warfare and the extraordinary bravery and resilience of those who endured it. Its aftermath reshaped the course of the war and left a lasting impact on the nations involved.
As we reflect on Verdun, it's important to remember the human stories behind the statistics, the individual acts of heroism, the suffering, and the enduring spirit of those who fought. Their legacy continues to teach us about the costs of war and the value of perseverance and hope. The Battle of Verdun left a profound and lasting impact on both the First World War and the countries involved. Its legacy reverberates through military history, national consciousness, and collective memory.
One of the most immediate impacts was on military tactics and strategies. The brutal lessons learned at Verdun influenced how future battles were fought. The extensive use of artillery demonstrated its decisive role in modern warfare, leading to advancements in artillery tactics and technology. Counter-battery fire, developed during Verdun, became a standard practice in future conflicts.
Verdun also underscored the importance of logistics and supply lines. The French Voie sacrée, or Sacred Way, became legendary as the lifeline that sustained the French defenders. Its success highlighted the critical need for secure and efficient supply routes in maintaining an effective fighting force.
On a broader scale, the battle impacted national morale and identity, particularly in France. Verdun became a symbol of French endurance and tenacity. The phrase "ils ne passeront pas," or "they shall not pass," became synonymous with French resolve. This collective memory fortified national unity and provided a source of inspiration during the dark days of the war and beyond.
The psychological impact of Verdun on the soldiers who fought there was significant. Many who survived the battle suffered from shell shock, now recognized as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The harrowing experiences of constant bombardment, hand-to-hand combat, and witnessing the deaths of comrades left deep emotional scars that affected veterans for the rest of their lives.
The physical landscape of Verdun bore the scars of the battle for decades. The region was left a devastated wasteland, with entire villages wiped off the map. The land was littered with unexploded ordnance, making it dangerous and difficult to reclaim. Efforts to rehabilitate the land continue even today, with parts of the battlefield preserved as a stark reminder of the war's devastation.
The commemorative efforts at Verdun began soon after the battle ended. Monuments and memorials were erected to honor the fallen and to serve as places of reflection and remembrance. The Douaumont ossuary, which houses the remains of 130,000 unidentified French and German soldiers, stands as a powerful symbol of the battle's human cost and the shared suffering of both nations.
Verdun also played a significant role in the post-war period of reconciliation between France and Germany. The horrors of the battle, shared by both sides, became a point of commonality that later leaders used to foster peace and cooperation. The iconic image of French President François Mitterrand and German Chancellor Helmut Kohl standing hand in hand at Douaumont in 1984 symbolized a commitment to a peaceful future and the healing of old wounds.
The battle's influence extended into the cultural realm as well. Verdun has been the subject of numerous books, films, and documentaries, each exploring different facets of the battle and its impact. These works help keep the memory of Verdun alive and ensure that the lessons learned are not forgotten.
Militarily, Verdun highlighted the futility and horror of attritional warfare. The massive loss of life for minimal territorial gain underscored the need for new strategies and tactics. The battle's lessons were studied and applied in future conflicts, influencing military thinking and doctrine.
The lasting impact of Verdun is a testament to the resilience and courage of those who fought there. It serves as a reminder of the human cost of war and the importance of striving for peace. The battle's legacy is a call to remember the past and to work towards a future where such a conflict never happens again.
As we conclude our exploration of the Battle of Verdun, let's remember the sacrifices made and the enduring spirit of those who endured its horrors. Their stories continue to teach us about the strength of the human spirit and the importance of peace and unity.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through history. We appreciate every one of our listeners. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and share the podcast. Your 5-star reviews help us reach more people and keep this podcast going.
And remember, you can suggest topics through our social media. We love hearing from you. Also, check out our new merchandise, link in the show notes.
Every episode, including this one, is evergreen. So, feel free to revisit or share it anytime. Until next time, stay curious and stay informed. This is the History AI Podcast. Looking for the perfect way to show appreciation for the incredible mom in your life? Discover Exhausted Moms, a coloring journey to relaxation and humor, the coloring book that speaks directly to the heart of motherhood. Gift her an escape into pages of laughter, empowerment, and moments of tranquility. With Exhausted Moms, she'll find a blend of whimsical illustrations and inspiring quotes that celebrate her daily triumphs and challenges. Crafted with love from images I created for the mother of my children, each page offers a space for creativity and relaxation, a reminder that she's doing an amazing job, even on the toughest days. Give the gift of laughter, peace, and recognition. Exhausted Moms isn't just a coloring book, it's a hug, a nod of understanding, and a token of appreciation for everything she does. Surprise her with Exhausted Moms today and watch her face light up with joy. Because every mom deserves a moment to herself, wrapped in the colors of love and support.